Welcome back to the deep dive. Our mission is always the same. We take a mountain of industry data, we distill it, and we give you the actionable knowledge you need, usually before your next cup of coffee gets cold. Today we're tackling something. Well, it's a critical but deeply frustrating area for anyone running a healthcare practice,
Oh, yeah?
especially if you're in physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech-language pathology. We're talking about credentialing.
The word alone is enough to make people groan.
Exactly. If you're a clinic owner, you probably hear that word and just think administrative bottlenecks,
Right.
paperwork that never ends,
Mhm.
and months of waiting that are actively blocking your revenue.
So we've taken a deep dive into the source material, regulatory guidance, consulting reports, you name it. And we're going to try and fundamentally shift how you see this.
It's a big shift in mindset. It is. Because credentialing isn't just a compliance hurdle. It's actually the absolute foundation for getting higher reimbursement rates and better contract terms. Our goal is to show you how moving past that basic compliance becomes your most powerful financial strategy.
Okay, let's unpack this. What exactly is credentialing if we strip it down to its core function? And why does it feel like such a monumental task?
Fundamentally, it's quality and safety assurance. That's it. It's the process where insurance payers verify everything about your providers.
Everything, like licenses, training.
Everything. Licenses, specialized training, their entire work history, malpractice clearance. You're not allowed to bill for a single service under their plan until that whole verification is complete.
Okay, that makes sense. But where does the financial pain come from?
It's the data accuracy. That's the part that hits your balance sheet immediately. Credentialing services are, they're essentially specialized data managers.
So they're just constantly updating profiles. Constantly. For your PT, OT, and SLP providers, making sure every single detail aligns perfectly with what the payer has in their directory. If that data is correct, your claim is what they legally call a clean claim.
And if it's not,
It gets denied or delayed. That accuracy is your main defense against denials caused by, strict definitions or, more often than not, just outdated information.
so if that compliance foundation is shaky, you can't even start talking about strategy.
Not at all.
You're just spending staff hours fixing tiny eligibility errors instead of maximizing your billable hours. Which brings us right to the administrative payoff, using this as a revenue protector. How do these specialized services get that hyper-accuracy?
It's the continuous management component. You have to think of it less like filing one application and more like maintaining a living, breathing digital profile across dozens of systems.
Dozens.
Oh, easily. You have centralized databases like CAQH, plus state systems, plus every individual payer has their own portal. If any of those are out of sync, the claim gets denied. Doesn't matter how great the clinical care was.
Right. I've heard about issues with clean claim definitions.
Exactly. The AAFP, which deals with this a lot, highlighted that when payers expand their definitions of a clean claim beyond the standard fields, denials just spike.
Why is that?
Because clinics just can't keep up with all the unique little administrative asks. A dedicated credentialing team maintains that data, the right addresses, the correct enrollment details, and prevents those errors from ever happening.
And that must include things like the taxonomy code, which I know is one of those frustrating little details.
Absolutely. The taxonomy code is the NPI identifier that tells the payer what kind of therapist is billing. A specific code for a PT in orthopedics versus, say, one in pediatrics.
And if that's wrong, the claim is just gone.
Instantly flagged. A specialist manages these minor but totally devastating details. It ensures you're compliant long before you even think about negotiating a contract. You've just neutralized all that low-level noise.
But hold on. That elimination of error sounds expensive. For a small or mid-sized clinic, isn't it just cheaper to hire a skilled part-time admin to handle the CAQH profile, say, once or twice a year?
That's a valid question, and it really gets to the critical difference in mindset.
How so?
Well, the once-a-year approach sees credentialing as a necessary evil. The strategic approach sees it as kind of like inventory management. The cost isn't just the salary. It's the cost of lost opportunity and all the unnecessary denial work.
So you're saying the cost of errors outweighs the cost of the service.
We've seen consulting data that suggests clinics using proactive, continuous data monitoring reduce their administrative denials by 15 to 20%.
15 to 20%.
Compared to clinics just relying on the mandatory payer cycles. That denial rate reduction alone often completely offsets the cost of the professional service.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. Let's pivot to leverage. Once you've guaranteed you're not getting kicked out on a technicality, How do you turn that operational cleanliness into actual market strength?
Because that administrative compliance, it's a valuable commodity, isn't it?
That's what I'm thinking.
It is, because it's tied directly to volume and market access. Being thoroughly credentialed across a wide spectrum of payers, Medicare, Medicaid, commercial insurers, MCOs, it doesn't just give you permission to bill,
It gives you a wider net.
the widest possible net for catching patients.
Uh-huh.
And that broad, reliable access to patients, that's your primary bargaining chip. Specialized services handle all that complex enrollment paperwork, which is a total nightmare for in-house staff, and get your team into all those plans fast.
Okay, but does this mindset really work when you're dealing with massive, historically rigid payers? I'm thinking of the Medicaid managed care orgs. They don't usually negotiate based on compliance, do they? They negotiate on scale.
That's true, but even with the behemoths, broad panel participation gives you leverage. It comes down to geography and specialization. Let me give you two specific scenarios where this pristine credentialing status becomes real currency. Scenario 1. A payer is aggressively building a new provider network in a specific area, maybe a growing suburban or rural market.
Right, trying to expand their footprint.
Exactly. And if your PT, OT, or SLP clinic is the dominant, fully credentialed provider ready to go immediately, your participation makes that payer's health product instantly more marketable. You are providing instant network adequacy. They need you.
So you become a necessary piece of infrastructure that they have to pay a premium for.
Precisely. That urgency encourages them to offer a higher reimbursement rate or better terms right out of the gate.
Okay, what's scenario 2?
Even in established networks, a fully compliant clinic gets leverage by highlighting its unique strengths. Payers are judged on quality metrics more and more. If your clinic has impeccable records and you can show above-average patient outcomes or specialized services,
Like advanced pediatric feeding therapy or something like that?
perfect example. That readiness means they just can't afford to lose you. They'll often negotiate better rates for those specialties or just offer an across-the-board bump to ensure their members have coverage.
I appreciate that distinction. So the strategic mindset isn't just about being compliant. It's about making your team available wherever the patient volume is, so you can negotiate from a position of strength, not desperation. Okay, let's move into the advanced negotiation phase. You've established compliance, you've secured leverage. What specific contract clauses should clinics be insisting on to safeguard their revenue?
What's fascinating here is how having current credentials immediately elevates the whole discussion.
How so?
The payer doesn't see a disorganized clinic chasing paperwork. They see a reliable, high-quality partner. The source material, it references standards from bodies like the NCQA, and they stress that payers prioritize practices that deliver consistent patient access and quality. That perception is invaluable when you're talking money.
And what about the actual contract language?
The AMA guidance is all about clarity. The contract has to clearly assign responsibility and timelines for credentialing. And when your clinic has flawless compliance, you're armed to insist on clauses that safeguard that revenue continuity.
So what are those specific safeguards we should be looking for?
First and foremost, clear, detailed, and short, timely payment schedules. But beyond that, you can insist on limiting the payer's window for doing audits or clawbacks of past payments.
Ah, that's a big one.
It is. If a payer tries to recoup payments from 2 years ago, having pristine, proven credentialing status strengthens your legal position to restrict that window to, say, 180 or even 90 days. You're insisting on certainty.
What else?
You also want an unambiguous recredentialing process, a clause that locks in your current rate until the new recredentialing is officially done. It prevents a sudden administrative drop that just tanks your cash flow. Complete credential files shift the whole discussion away from proving eligibility and onto the things that matter: fees, coverage, and stability.
It seems like the entire process really hinges on eliminating that typical bottleneck, the sheer amount of time it takes to get credentialed in the first place.
That is the absolute crippling reality. Credentialing takes a significant amount of time. The standard estimate is 60 to 120 days per payer.
60 to 120. And that's if things go well.
That's often an optimistic time frame, yeah. Medicare and Medicaid can easily add extra winks because of site visits or specific state processing lags.
And that lag is just a massive headache.
It's a financial burden. Think about the cost. That's potentially 4 months where a new, highly trained physical therapist is just sitting on the bench. costing you their full salary without generating a single billable dollar of insured revenue.
I can feel the pain just thinking about it.
I remember a survey where clinic managers admitted they spent more time correcting CAQH profiles and tracking credentialing statuses than they spent reviewing their quarterly financials. That's the misallocation of resources we're trying to fix.
And it's not a one-and-done process, is it? People leave, licenses change.
Exactly. Recredentialing is required every 1 to 3 years, but the maintenance is constant.
Yeah.
Any change, an address move, a name update, a new license, it has to be reported immediately to every single payer.
And if it's not?
That's a primary driver of denials, even if the service was medically necessary and perfectly delivered.
So this is where outsourcing really shines. You mentioned refreshing CAQH profiles quarterly.
Right. We mean someone is hitting the electronic "I confirm this is current" button every 90 days, even if nothing changed. That simple, proactive step prevents the automatic administrative suspensions that payers often use when information goes stale. It just ensures an uninterrupted reimbursement flow.
So contrasting the in-house work, where an admin is juggling dozens of unique payer deadlines, versus having specialists, is really about buying speed and guaranteed accuracy.
It is. You're minimizing the administrative burden, you're eliminating the guesswork, and that efficiency translates directly into faster network access, lower internal overhead, and a much stronger compliance position when you finally sit down to talk rates. You're trading risk and delay for certainty and speed.
So what does this all mean? For the learner listening, the core lesson here is transformation. Credentialing is not a compliance hurdle you have to grudgingly clear. It is the absolute required foundation for securing better insurance reimbursement and negotiating better contract terms.
No.
You simply cannot negotiate for better rates or insist on favorable contract terms if you aren't already fully in-network with a perfect compliance record. You have to earn the right to ask for more.
The leverage is entirely in the readiness and the stability. Payers respond to predictability, consistent patient access, and market necessity. That combination, guaranteed compliance, proven quality, and broad patient access, that's the ultimate negotiation leverage point.
Right.
It shifts the entire discussion from, "Are you even eligible to bill us?" to the much more lucrative question, "How much is your essential eligible service worth to our network?"
That is such a critical shift in perspective. And here is a final provocative thought for you to consider as you strategize your clinic's growth. If we know that something as simple as outdated provider info can cause immediate, costly claim denials, and we know that administrative changes are constant, how frequently should a growing therapy clinic proactively audit its payers' definitions of a clean claim outside of the official credentialing cycle to maximize reimbursement continuity? Food for thought as you calculate the true cost of complexity. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.